5G Verticals Innovation Infrastructure, or 5G VINNI, is a European Union-backed venture that brings together 23 partners, including CSPs, technology vendors and researchers. The goal is to build and test a multi-vendor, multinational 5G environment with network slicing, helping to accelerate the uptake of 5G by industry verticals in Europe. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content for Telecom TV, and in this series we'll hear from different stakeholders in 5G VINNI. Now, to date, 5G VINNI has enabled over 30 use cases covering a range of different sectors. In a later programme, we'll take a deeper dive into the healthcare sector, and we'll follow that with a live Q&A programme on Tuesday, the 5th of October. So please, any questions you have, send them in now and join us for the live show. Now, though, we're going to take a look at the 5G VINNI project achievements so far and what it takes for a CSP to enable 5G use cases at scale. And joining me on the programme today are Paul Grunsund, Senior Research Scientist, Telenor and 5G VINNI Coordinator, and David Kennedy, who is the Director of Eurescom. Welcome both of you. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme today. Paul, if I could start with you, what is the 5G VINNI project? And can you put this project in context for us? And, what are the objectives?
Yeah, thanks, Guy. So the main objective of 5G VINNI is to build an end-to-end 5G facility across Europe with two main purposes. The first one is to validate the 5G key performance indicators, like throughput, latency, availability, and security. And the second one is to make it open and available for experimentation with vertical industries. So what we have done is to build 5G facilities in multiple countries across Europe, so including Norway, UK, Spain, Greece, and as well as in Germany and Portugal, and also linking these together. And then we are doing rigorous performance testing in these facilities. And for this to be possible, we have built a set of automated test tools that continuously test the network. And the second point is that an equally important one is that there are multiple vertical industries that run trials across these facilities. And to mention a few, we are working with hospitals, we are working with ports, factories, military, the transportation, and also the aquaculture. And many of these use cases are developed by other European research projects and then deployed onto the 5G VINNI facility. And I guess David will touch a bit on this cooperation later. And as you know, building 5G includes a lot of technology. It includes radio network, it includes the transport network, the cloud, which also includes central and edge locations, and core networks. And importantly, it also includes the end-to-end orchestration that is used to manage the network slices end-to-end and to expose the services to the customers. And we have done some significant research and innovation in all of these areas, and it's publicly available, most of it, so please have a look on our website. And of course, I have to mention that the work within 5G VINNI is made possible with contributions from a strong list of partners in the consortium. Meaning mobile operators, telecom vendors, academic institutions, and also small to medium-sized enterprises.
Thanks, Paul. And as we mentioned, 5G VINNI comprises a lot of use cases. What links these? Is there any commonality? Because why try and validate so many?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first to mention, we see a lot of commonality across the different use cases. In fact, when we develop new innovations with one vertical industry, we often benefit from bringing that to other verticals as well. So there are many examples such as autonomous edge computing, different slicing mechanisms, and device-to-device communication, to mention some. Though I would like to stress that 5G is new to most of the verticals. Therefore, it is important to do the testing with them, for them to get familiar with 5G and learn what it can bring. And as I touched on, when working with the verticals, we also learn a lot from them that bring new ideas into how we can develop and implement 5G. So looking at the use cases, I mentioned a few of them previously, and some of them will be present in later sessions as well. But to highlight some of the points, so for instance, with the hospitals, we are doing remote ultrasound. And another use case, which is called PillCam, basically a pill that the patient swallow and traverses the body in order to detect colon cancer. And you have a real tight requirement on the latency, so that you can turn on and off the lights based on some AI sitting in the back end. So that's one key example. And also with the ports, we work on digitizing the supply chain, like automated cranes and also vehicles. And then we have another one, which is with the military, where we establish highly secure and available 5G networks, also embedding military-grade systems or their own applications into 5G. And a fourth example is also with the aquaculture, where we deploy edge clouds that run analytics on video streams from the actual fish in order to detect overfeeding, as an example, to detect whether there's lice or disease on the fish, and also to count the population and the size of the fish in order to optimize the harvesting. So it's really, really improving their fish farming. And as you can see, the use cases by the verticals, they are different, though there is a lot of common technology used across. But I also have to mention that for some of them, and many of them, there is a need for customization, and that's why we engage deeply with them and work together in order to realize it. And that's what we basically then do in 5G VINNI.
David, if I can turn to you now. 5G VINNI is a 5G PPP project funded by Europe's Horizon 2020 initiative. What's Eurescom's role in the 5G PPP programme, and what have you and your partners achieved?
Thank you. Yes, Eurescom is a project management and a program management company. And as well as helping Telenor establish the 5G VINNI project, we have been involved in the coordination and support activities of the entire program over the last 7 years. It's an intensive program. We've actually now got 92 projects as part of the 5G PPP. They started off with technology projects where they explored the technology, and then they built up into validation projects where they tested these technologies. And then we moved into phase 3, and phase 3 is the create the trial infrastructures and then actually validate these infrastructures by running test cases on them. And this brings us into the current discussion.
And David, how does 5G VINNI fit into the overall programme?
5G VINNI is one of 3 infrastructure projects that were established at the start of phase 3 to create an infrastructure that can then be used by others to validate and test services. But it's not just for the validation of the services, it's also for the validation of the model of provisioning infrastructure that is tailored to the specific needs of different services. And from the operational viewpoint, to be able to present these services in an integrated infrastructure without having an impact on each other. So we can run multiple services in the one infrastructure with a high performance, high quality, and each domain will have a different set of quality parameters. Some need low latency, some need high throughput, and this sort of thing. But to be able to deliver all of these through the same infrastructure in a coherent, managed way is the real ambition. And VINNI is one of the lead projects for testing this.
So you've both given us a really good background as to what the project is, but what have we achieved so far? Paul, let me ask you first with regards to 5G VINNI. What's been achieved? What would you say are the successes so far?
I think maybe I highlighted some of it a bit previously, but to be short, I think first of all, we have successfully implemented 5G facility for experimentation across Europe, and these are still evolving. And then we have a lot of results in terms of technology development within orchestration and automation, within network slicing, the 5G architecture in general, and also testing frameworks, to mention some important ones. And we have also done extensive performance evaluation of 5G to understand what it can deliver to the customers. And a lot of this work has been reported and it's made available to the public. So please have a look. And not least, I think it's really important the way we are working with the vertical industries and have been working with them. So that, and knowing that they will, or they are adopting 5G for their business critical communications. So really enabling that journey and propelling it is an important part of the results we have in 5G VINNI as well.
And David, what would you say are the achievements of 5G VINNI so far?
5G VINNI has made major contributions to the program goals. And on the program level, we've actually achieved an awful lot in terms of determining viable architectures for future 5G networks. And not only has 5G VINNI tested and validated many of these ideas, but they have involved themselves in a discussion with their peer projects to make sure that it's validated across the set of active projects. And one of the most downloaded activities in the 5G PPP is the architecture papers for the future networks. So we're strongly influencing the evolution of the networks from an informed base of testing and validation. And I think this coherent approach to the program and the multiple test cases within 5G VINNI are all part of making sure we know the right answer and we know it works. And this is, I think, the real value of the program as a coherent whole. We've definitely got, if you like, the sum of the results of the project to be more than just the individual project results.
That's good achievement. Thank you, both of you, for those highlights. Paul, 5G introduces a lot of new technology. What's the importance of orchestration and automation in 5G? And also, how does network slicing feature in the 5G VINNI project?
Yeah, I think regarding orchestration and automation, in a previous statement I had on this topic, I said that 5G is not possible without it. And I also said something like, I really, out of everything, I put it all the way to the top. And it is really important. And in order to explain why, I would like to mention at least two things. The first one, as you know, as the number of 5G network slices and also 5G private networks increase, there will be many networks to manage. And given that we use a lot of resources to manage one network today, or two networks, it will obviously be difficult to manage many more networks, because slices and private networks, they will be new networks. And also, we need to do this efficiently, given that many of these networks will be smaller scale than the public network. And of course, but not least, many of these networks are typically defined as critical communications. So in order to achieve this, orchestration and automation is then fundamental in order to reduce the complexity, make it more efficient, and also avoid human error. And the second point I wanted to make is that, every orchestration layer is offering a service to the layer above, and eventually then to the customer. So orchestration is therefore important to expose these services and then automate the provisioning of these services into the network to make it really efficient and a nice experience for the end customers. And I can say that in 5G VINNI, we have invested significant time and resources into orchestration and automation. And I'm really happy to see that this is now proving to be worth investment, so that we can enable the slices and services really efficiently. But in the end, of course, I also have to mention that there's still work to be done in this area. It's really evolving. And I will also say that we learn a lot when we test this out with the customers to understand how we can improve it and make it even better.
Thanks, Paul. As you say, very, very important area. David, another important area. How important is it to create a sandbox environment in order to experiment on 5G technology and customer use cases?
This is actually a critical part of the process, because we're actually, with the future networks, we're producing capabilities that are way beyond the communication capabilities that these industries have known to date. So in many ways, we're asking them to modify their business models in order to get the gains and the improvements that are possible with the new communications infrastructure. So really, you can't be so patronizing as to come along to these guys and say, here's a way to do your work better. So we actually have to work with them and do the joint research on how they can exploit the new communication capabilities and improve their own business models through doing it. So this partnership of developing the services along with the infrastructure capabilities is absolutely necessary, because for the business models of both the communications and the industries, it's no use if we're out of sync. If we're going to provide these facilities, we'd like industry to be ready to take them up. And similarly, industry doesn't want to bank on them unless they know they're going to be available and can be trusted. So the sandbox approach is critical to getting this working relationship between the communications providers and the vertical sectors tested, validated, and everybody can share the confidence in it.
Yeah, thank you, David. Paul, we've heard from both of you how 5G VINNI is helping vertical industries validate how they can use 5G for their apps. But I also understand that Telenor is committed to keeping this work going beyond the end of the project timeframe. That to me sounds like a great endorsement on how research can lead into ongoing commercial activity.
Yeah, that's true. So one thing we have committed is to make 5G VINNI available for experimentation throughout 2022. And this is also in order to serve the other European funded projects that are using 5G VINNI. But at the same time, we also hear from many of the industries that we are working with, asking what will then happen after 2022. And also considering that this work is bringing huge benefits for Telenor and the partners in 5G VINNI. Of course, in addition to the verticals, we are working on evolving 5G VINNI to continue this valuable innovation even beyond 2022. And of course, the operating model of that is something we are looking into and working on, and how to make that available, considering funding to make it happen. So this is really ongoing. So I strongly believe that 5G VINNI is here to stay, even beyond the current project lifetime, which is thanks to the funding and the program by the European Commission.
So building on that one, David, what's the next steps for the 5G VINNI project?
Exactly as said, they have established a relationship with the vertical domains, and the more domains, the better. We've actually had different domains involved in the different infrastructure projects, so the spread across the program is quite large. We've addressed many domains. Now, the issue very simply is that when you have addressed domains at this level and given them the ability to improve their business models, they want to continue. So this leads to the question that can Telenor and others provide the infrastructure as a service going forward, which, as you've just heard, Telenor are working hard on. And can we then continue to bring in more areas? We really need to consider this in the context of the future and the next program, because as a general level, Europe is not that heavily digitized. The industries are still learning how to use the new services and the new facilities. And in order to ensure European competitiveness going forward, we need to invest more and follow up on the strategy of bringing the vertical sectors and the communication capabilities together and working out how the whole model can improve.
Thanks, David. And Paul, you just spoke about the evolution of 5G VINNI. Are there any concrete next steps that you see in the project?
Yeah, I think first say I think also 5G VINNI has been a huge success so far. But the project is still running until the end of this year, and I see that we are still working on implementing new technology features being requested by the customers, and also being important for us to operate the networks, like more advanced features within 5G standalone, 3GPP release 16 features, and also even more automation. Some important examples. So. And also, secondly, there is high activity on advancing and implementing the vertical use cases. And in fact, as we speak, more and more verticals and use cases are coming in. It's not stopping. And of course, when you work with each of them, interestingly, when you do one innovation, new ideas pop up. And therefore, I would say that the list is just increasing. So, yeah, and of course, we are working on the operating model in 22 and also beyond. So, for sure, there's a lot of work remaining and exciting times ahead, really.
Thanks. It's very good to hear that there's more and more verticals showing interest and getting involved, which brings me to a final question, David. The EU's next major initiative, the Smart Network and Services Programme, how might this impact 5G VINNI and its work?
Well, actually, it builds on the 5G VINNI approach and the other projects within the 5G PPP. We've established a lot of exciting relationships, particularly in the phase 3 of the 5G PPP, between the verticals and the communications domains. But we need to go further. We need to do a lot more in terms of the European strategy, the Green Deal, and that we need to get energy consumption and the carbon footprint of both the fixed networks, the mobile networks, the data stores, all of these, down by 50% in the next period. But the problem is, of course, these services are growing. So we have the challenge of dealing with the growth while reducing the impact. And we need the next initiative, the Smart Networks and Services joint undertaking that's being planned under the Horizon Europe program, to really set the objectives for this and work out how, through a program of technological innovation, awareness of the societal impact, etc., awareness of the environmental impact in that, we can push through a program that can really improve on the 20% digitization of the European industry in order to give us a competitive European industry going forward. The other thing that the program should help us do is achieve a certain robustness in the European ICT industry and the support of all the sectors, because we've seen in the last period that there can be intercontinental discussions and political arguments and that sort of thing. So we do need a degree of self-sustainability within Europe to assist and make sure our industries and our jobs and our society can keep functioning at its best. So this program is very important.
Great. Well, I think it's a very good message to end our discussion on. Paul and David, thank you both very much, and hopefully we'll see you again for our live Q&A show. Now, in our next programme, we'll hear from Nokia and one of the end users, the Oslo University Hospital, on how 5G VINNI is helping to unlock the value of 5G for industry verticals with orchestration and automation. And don't forget, join us for our live Q&A programme on Tuesday, the 5th of October. This is your opportunity to submit questions for our guests in the series. So, any questions you have on 5G VINNI or more general questions on the use of 5G in verticals, please send them in now. There's a form right here on the website. For now though, thank you for watching and goodbye.